Hey everybody! Alright, I'm going to show you how to divide with fractions two different ways. This first way we're going to do it using some models. The second way we'll just use numbers. So for this first problem, 3 divided by 1/3, to make my model, I'm starting with the number 3, so I've drawn out 3 whole rectangles, or at least they are kind of like rectangles. Now to divide it by 1/3, I need to divide each of my 3 things into thirds. So I'm going to do that, that, and that. You can now see that each of my pieces are now into thirds. Sorry, each of my whole rectangles are now divided into thirds. Now I can count them up and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 thirds in 3. This next question is a little bit different in that it starts with a fraction. So I'm still going to do what I do first here, and I'm going to draw out a model of my first number. So 1/4. That means I'm talking about just one of the 4 pieces of my rectangle. So I'll shade in my 1/4 piece. Sorry for my sloppy writing here. Okay, now I need to divide my 1/4 by 2. So since I'm dividing by 2, I'm going to just cut this thing in half. Now my answer to this question is going to be one of these pieces. So my answer now is this one piece, and that is one of now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So by dividing 1/4 in half, I have a piece that is 1/8 of the shape. That first page, our model on this first page told us that 3 divided by 1/3 was 9, and 1/4 divided by 2 is 1/8. Now, another way to do that, and if that seemed really tricky and confusing, you can just do it this way. So the nice thing about dividing fractions is that if you think about them as doing the opposite of multiplying fractions, you actually can do it pretty easily. So there's a couple steps involved. And for this type of problem, the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to turn your whole numbers into fractions. Now, you can turn any whole number in the world into a fraction simply by putting it over 1. Let's think about that for just a second here. Well, we know that just the number 3 means you have 3 whole things. Well, now it's 3 over 1. Remember, your denominator tells you how many pieces it's cut into. So something is now cut into 1 piece, and we have 3 of those. Yeah, that sounds like 3. Okay, so that's still the same. I'll go ahead and do that on my second problem here as well. The number 2 as a whole number is simply 2 over 1. So now, even though they're a little bit slanted, I now have 2 fractions. But this is not a multiplication problem. This is a division problem. So what I want to do is I want to make this problem be the opposite. So we know that the opposite of division is multiplication. So if I multiply 3 over 1 by the opposite, another way to say that is by the reciprocal, I can end up getting my answer. See, the opposite of 1 over 3 is 3 over 1. That might seem complicated, but if you can remember to just flip over the second fraction, you'll be okay. Because now it's multiplying 2 fractions, so we can multiply straight across. 3 times 3 is 9. 1 times 1 is 1. 9 over 1, that's exactly the same as just 9. All right, let's look at this next question here. Once again, we want to do the opposite to make this easy. So the opposite of division is multiplying. So if we do 1/4 multiplied by the opposite of 2 over 1, that gives us 1 over 2. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 2 is 8. The answer is 1/8. Now, we can check our work by going back. Okay, if we go back here, we can see that by flipping the second fraction and then multiplying, you get the correct answer. So that's kind of a shortcut way to divide fractions. If you flip the second fraction and then multiply, you'll be okay. The only other thing to remember is to turn your whole numbers into fractions just by writing a 1 underneath them. All right, good luck. Send us an email if you need help.